Welcome to Around the Track, the most exciting 15 minutes in wealth management by Dynasty Financial Partners and hosted by CEO Shirl Penney.
Welcome to another edition of Around the Track, the most exciting 15 minutes in wealth management. I think you're going to enjoy today's conversation, which I think will be not only exciting, but a lot of fun, because I'm joined by my good friend and CEO of Ritholtz Wealth Management, Josh Brown. Josh, thanks so much for being here.
The most exciting 15 minutes in wealth management is a lot to live up to. I'm going to do my best, though. I promise.
Well, look, I got to tell you, I appreciate you being here because I've been wanting to have Ritholtz Wealth Management on for a while. And I asked, Barry Ritholtz, he wasn't available.
Was Barry busy?
Then I went to Chris Venn, he wasn't available. Mike Babnick, I went all the way down the list, and then I got to you. So I appreciate you making time to be on.
I have nothing going on, so this works perfectly for me.
All right. Look, you know the rules. We have 15 minutes to make our way around the virtual track together. 8 questions, each representing a furlong on the track to get to the mile together. So without further ado, let's jump in.
And they're off.
Tell us about Josh Brown and Ritholtz Wealth Management.
So the firm, Shirl, is about 7.5 years old now. And I think you and I originally met right around the time either we were about to launch or we had just launched. But we're pushing closer to about 40 employees. We were virtual/remote before it was cool. Really, from day one, we had employees around the country. And so a lot of the stuff that advisors had to figure out last year, we kind of were already doing that. We just had to get a little bit better at it. But it's been a pleasure to have a clientele and an employee base that's national, because in normal times, I always have a reason to get to different cities, regions around the country, meet with clients, meet with employees. So I'm looking forward to getting back to that in 2022, I suppose, as I'm sure a lot of the people watching this today are.
Awesome. So what are you most excited about right now? What's getting you out of bed early in the morning, whether it's the industry or your firm? What has you really pumped up right now?
I have to be honest, I stopped reading everything that has to do with the industry probably 9 months ago, like very deliberately. So I read a ton on investing. I read a lot about the economy. I try not to read too much about politics. And I'm reading almost nothing at all about what other advisory firms are doing. And the reason is I'm not interested in crowding my way into someone else's lane. I very much want to build a firm that is its own island, so to speak. I feel like a lot of advisors are subject, as I used to be, to a lot of groupthink, listening to the same podcasts, reading the same 4 or 5 publications, tweeting with each other all day. I just want out of that mold, and I want to build something that's very unique. And so I'm really having a good time. And if there is something going on in the industry that I need to be made aware of, I have enough employees who are neck deep in that stuff all day. They can kind of fill me in. But I don't really think I'm missing anything. I keep in touch with my friends in the business like yourself, and that's pretty much all I need. And I'm trying to do something that nobody has really done before, and there'll be more to come on that in the very near future.
Well, I think that's a great segue, Josh, to our next question, which is, whether it's 2 or 3 words, what words would you pick to describe yourself as an entrepreneur, as a leader? And then the follow-on to that, you have a remarkable business partner with Barry Ritholtz, the chairman. How are you and he different or alike, and where is there synergy there within the team?
So but the first word that came to mind when you asked me, I was gonna say husky, but I don't think you meant physically. So let's just say this: if there were any word that I had the power to implant in people's minds whenever they mention me or think of me, because I can't really control how people perceive me, but I would just hope that word would be authentic or authenticity. That's the adjective that I strive for. I never want somebody to have an encounter with me or listen to me give an interview or whatever and feel like I'm saying anything other than how I feel. And I know a lot of people would like to aspire to that. In my experience, most people in our industry don't. I think there's a lot of very stage-managed, publicist-driven content out there, and a lot of people saying what they think they're supposed to say. And I just have no interest in that, and I never have. And I think that's helped me stand out. I also think it's enabled me to make some enemies or have some scuffles with people, which I'm certainly not looking for. But like whatever, that's really how I want to come across. And I don't want anyone to ever be able to say that I'm anything other than, being myself and being authentic. Because I think clients appreciate that.
Yeah,
And
no,
I think potential employees appreciate that too.
yeah,
Barry and I differ in one very notable way. He is a perennial glasses half full, glasses full optimist. He never had any doubt that what we built together would succeed. If anything, we're actually falling short of his imagination. And I think it's really important for me to have a partner like that, because I'm kind of the opposite. I wake up or sometimes don't even go to sleep thinking about what could go wrong, what aren't I thinking of, how much risk, who's coming after me, like reasons to be anxious. I think we balance each other out really well. I think you need that sense of paranoia and alarmism, but I think you want to always balance that out with, hey, this is going to work. I know it's going to work. So I think we work well together because of that juxtaposition.
that's great. Thanks for that. And looking as someone who is a friend of yours, who we've hung out in the office, but we've also hung out at the bar, at a concert. I think
Many
you're very
steakhouses.
many steakhouses. Very very authentic. You are who you are, very consistently all the time. So thanks for sharing.
Well, I
that.
feel the same about you, Shirl, which is why I think we get along so well.
I appreciate that. So look, you were an early adopter with social media. Obviously, I don't know what the number is now, but somewhere north of 1 million followers on Twitter. I'd love to hear why. Maybe it was accidental, but why did you get so involved so early for someone in our industry?
It was 100% accidental when I originally started using Twitter. I had a blog first. So I got an account on something called Deliverit, DLVR.IT, and that was a way to share blog posts automatically. It would pull a blog post from an RSS feed that you assigned to the blog, and then it would put it out on all your social channels. So LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever. And then the link between Deliverit and Twitter was not reliable. It kept breaking. So I had a Twitter account set up. It was just for distribution. So I said, all right, I'll let Deliverit send content via RSS feed to LinkedIn, to Facebook, and I'll do the Twitter part manually. And then it turned out that I'm like one of the biggest smartasses in the history of the world. So I built like a really big following, not just sharing links, but sharing, I guess, my personality or my opinions. And I had a lot of fun. I made a ton of friends. I built a lot of influence that way, and I had a pretty good run. I would say 90% of the time I spent on Twitter was positive and helpful for my career. So I'm really grateful for it, that it existed, and I think I was fortunate in that I was very early. I don't know that I would have been able to build the following if I were to start today in 2021. But getting on there in 2009, before anybody else in finance was really saying anything interesting, I had a big runway. And that's an advantage that you will always have, being early to a social network that actually takes off.
Video for you, obviously a lot of people watching this video are going to recognize you from your time on CNBC, which I think has been a great endeavor for you and your business, although
Yep.
I'd love to hear about that from you. But a lot of advisors, sometimes can be intimidated if they don't have a lot of experience, getting in front of that camera. A lot of advisors we're talking to are thinking about how to get started. So someone who is thinking about video from the advisor perspective, what advice would you give them, Josh?
So the number 1, 2, and 3 things that when people email me for advice on exactly what you're asking me, what I try to say to them, the first thing is make sure that you have a perspective and a view that's different from what else is out there. Because if you're just doing Me Too stuff, it's not going to go anywhere. So, and it's okay if you don't. Like, there are other ways that you can build your practice. You don't have to be somebody that does Instagram lives or Facebook lives or YouTube. Like, you don't have to do it. There's no gun to your head. So make sure you have something interesting to say and that it's not a labor. Like if you're like sitting in a room like, oh, what should I do a video about? Forget it. Like you have to feel like compelled, like I have to do this, right? For it to really work. So that's like the number one thing. The second thing is ask yourself, who is the audience? I think a lot of advisor created content, you can tell that they never ask the question, like, who do I expect to actually watch this, right? So with your content, it's very obvious to me that you expect the vast majority of people who come across it to be financial advisors. And so you're creating this great interview series with people that you feel are interesting to that audience and with questions that are going to help that audience. So your project makes a lot of sense. You'd be amazed how many advisors start filming things and they never ask, like, who the hell would even watch this? And let me make this really clear. When you're creating content in 2021, whether it's for investors or for advisors or whatever, you're not competing with me and Shirl. You're competing with Netflix. Like, these people have serious entertainment options. So you better come with something that's interesting, unique, energetic, exciting. Because if you don't, it's not like they're going to watch another financial advisor's channel. They're going to watch anything under the sun. So that's number two. The last thing, and I know we're probably going over time. I'm sorry. The last thing, the visuals and the audio quality. If you're not willing to invest, don't even start. So if you're using your iPhone's microphone, yeah, you could say something that gets a little bit viral, gets 5,000 or 6,000 people to favorite it. You could probably do that once. You're not going to build an audience if the audience senses that you're not investing in the quality of, forget the content. That's already the hard part. You have to level up your quality. Nobody wants to watch 780i, blurry, muffled audio. Like, just forget it if you're not willing to. That right now is table stakes. 5 years ago, that wasn't the case. You could do a show on your iPhone. I think that's what's starting to move up now. And you either want it badly enough to satisfy that requirement or you don't. If you don't want it that badly, I don't recommend spending your time dabbling because it takes a lot of time.
All right, so let's take a half step back now, and I want to ask you a question more broadly on leadership. Right, there's a lot of people watching this conversation that are making kind of an evolution, if you will, from advisor to CEO. And as you reflect back over your career, is there a piece of advice or a big success or mistake that stands out, or just simple advice that you might give to somebody who's making that transition into becoming a first-time CEO or leader of their organization?
So as somebody who's anxious a lot and suffers from a lot of doubt, even if I don't come across that way, believe me, I've always been like kind of somebody who would navel gaze and just say, I'm not qualified to do this. I don't have an MBA. What do I know about starting a company? What do I know about running a company? What do I know about growing a company? I don't know anything about hiring. I've never been trained to manage, to lead. Somebody, I forget who it was, but somebody along the way said to me, you're completely unqualified to do any of what you're doing, except for in one respect. You have leadership quality. And that's the thing that can't really be taught. You can get better at it, or you can let those skills lapse, but you can't manufacture them. You can't read a book and become a leader, I don't think. At least not a very, let's say, inspiring leader, or somebody that goes very far in building something. Like, you kind of have to have it or you don't. And some of the great entrepreneurs that I look up to, they kind of didn't have it, so they surrounded themselves with people who did, right? They were inventors and they weren't necessarily great leaders. But from my perspective, like, I have this one thing that I can do. I can recognize the direction that I want to go in, and I think I can get people to agree that it's worth doing. And the biggest attribute I would say that I possess in this area is being mission driven. Not mission driven like the buzzword from a consulting slide deck, but like, I lay out to my people why what we're doing matters and why it's bigger than just compensation or how much, profit we earn in any given year. I really lay it out to people why I think we're changing people's lives, clients' lives, and changing our own lives in the process. And people believe that I really mean that.
Look, being mission driven when combined with being authentic, those are some great qualities and characteristics. So I appreciate you sharing that, Josh. Let's for the next question. Let me help you out here a little bit. I'm looking behind you there. I'm going to plug that book, How I Invest My Money.
You're in that book.
For some reason, I'm in the book, and I appreciate the invite. You partnered up with Brian Portnoy and Carl Richards for the book. And I remember when you called me to invite me to be in the book, and you were telling me about the idea, which is not asking financial professionals how they invest for their clients, but asking them what do they do for themselves and for their family. And I remember saying to you, Josh, I love the idea, but surely someone has already done it. And you said, we've done all this research and no one has. And it was just a great idea. But just briefly, how did the idea come about? And then how has the book done?
So I wrote a blog post about just like the fact I've been on TV for 10 years and people asking like, how should I invest? Or me telling people, here's how you should invest. But nobody's ever been like, what do you do with your own money? So I ended up writing a blog post about that. And I just try to kind of break down, like, I invest in my friends' startups because it makes me feel good. I invest in innovation and fintech because for my career, it keeps me on the cutting edge. I do asset allocation the same way our clients do it in my retirement accounts because I think it's important to eat your own cooking. So I kind of like lay out what I'm investing in and then why I do it that way. And that inspired a bunch of people to be like, well, here's what I do. Here's what I do. So Brian Portnoy came to me and he was basically like, dude, this is a book. Just let's get 20 of our friends who we think are good communicators or writers and see if they want to contribute a chapter, and let's do it. And I was like, I don't know. And then the pandemic happened. And Brian's like, you kind of have no excuse now. Like, let's do. So he did a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of editing everyone's chapters. And I think we worked really well together in putting out something that's unique. And your chapter, Shirl, is one of my favorites, of course. But I think every chapter in there tells a very different story about a financial services professional trying to rationalize their portfolio in the context of their real life. And it's a really great message for all of our clients to see that we're just like them. We have the same considerations we have to think about.
Awesome. Okay, we're turning for home. We're headed towards the finish line. One question left, and you see that track that's behind me. That's the Saratoga Springs racetrack, the oldest sporting venue in the country. I look forward to spending some time, hopefully this summer, God willing, with you and other friends there. On that track right now, a lot of teams are gearing up for the Kentucky Derby, the Triple Crown, right? The owners, the trainers, the jockeys, all the teams are getting together and they're thinking about these big goals and big aspirations. So, Josh, just as we close out this time together, let me ask you, what is your Triple Crown? What is the big goal for you? Maybe for Ritholtz Wealth as well. What is that one big thing that you guys are all running hard as a team towards?
One of my advisors got an email last week with a picture of a beautiful, I don't know about boats. I don't know if you know about boats, but like just this beautiful, like drop dead gorgeous sailboat, like not like a yacht, but just like something that even if you don't know about boats, it's his boat on the water with the sunset behind it. And his email was basically like, you guys enabled this to happen. Like I don't want to say we gave him permission to spend his own money, but we showed him a path where he could buy that boat he's been dreaming about his whole life and still be able to satisfy all of the other objectives for his family, his business, etc., through the power of financial planning and the advice that we give. So when I saw it, I don't want to be corny. I definitely had like a tear in my eye. Like it's a reminder, like it's not, we're trying to beat the market every day or any of that stuff. Like we're really changing people's actual lives. And I have a lot more stories like that of us helping people pay for the care of a sick parent, all kinds of stuff. I don't want to get into every example, but just thinking about that sailboat, that image, and the client saying, you guys made this happen, or helped me make this happen. More importantly, like I want more of that. So what's my Triple Crown? Like I want there to be like 10,000 families that send us emails like that over the years. I think that would be a combination of me being financially successful, have a successful career, but also like having a level of satisfaction with the outcomes that my firm is producing. That would just be like, that would be everything for me. So I think that's the best way I can answer that question.
Well, Josh, one thing that I'm certain of is you are making a difference in more people's lives than you probably realize. So thank you so much for being a part of the program today. And thank you all for joining us for another edition of Around the Track.